What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel for another Steam Deck video, and we're taking a look at Zenless Zone 0 here this time. Something a little bit different. I was going to cover this more around launch, but it got kind of busy, so I'm finally catching up and getting this one out there. It's a fairly quick look, but we will check out kind of all the settings and stuff that we've got going on here. Now, I am running on Epic Games for this. I already had Epic Games installed. It works well for me on my Steam Deck, and so it was just easier for me to go ahead and open this up and install it this way versus the desktop method and downloading the launcher and doing it that way. But I know a lot of people don't want to use Epic or don't have it or whatever the case may be, so you are able to do it through desktop and avoid Epic, but this is how I was running the game here. Regardless, performance should be the same. If you do want to see a guide for doing the desktop method, Steam Deck Gaming has a really good guide up right now. I don't have anything yet for this, so I'll put a link in the description so you can check that out. And I also have guides here on the channel, newer ones, to install Epic Games if you don't already have it or want to check that out, and I'll put links in the description for that as well. As far as the settings for the game, we are going to take a look at 720 and this 1080. I'm mostly going to stick with this default 1080. It doesn't hurt performance much, and I think it looks pretty good. We're going to use a low custom to start off with, but we are going to look at high and medium throughout the video a little bit as well. Pretty quick look, but able to take a look at everything enough to where you can see performance, at least in the beginning couple of hours of the game anyways. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into it, starting with this low, so default 1080, low custom, 4 gigs of VRAM on the deck, and we're kind of in this first little 6th Street area that has some of your vendors and things like that, right? And performance here is fine when it comes to these settings in this area. You will get some stutters and some drops from time to time depending, but for these settings, this is a high frame rate. You could easily cap this to 60 FPS on your LCD deck, or even here on the OLED deck, or just allow it to run higher FPS. I want to see kind of what I could squeeze out of it, so this is why I was running it this way and checking it out, because I do like the higher frame rate on the OLED, or even if I'm playing docked. But the game still looks great this way, and going to medium or high doesn't make a huge difference in my opinion, but we'll take a look at it. But it does change your performance a little bit, so that's something there. If you're trying to save battery power, of course you could take this game down to 30 or 45 or 40. Anything like that would work great. Now if we go to the high preset, standing still here, we're at like 41 FPS, and if we were to get into battle and stuff like that, it's certainly going to dip, but we'll take a look at that as well. Going to the medium preset gains us a lot here, over 20 FPS. It's not as stable in combat as the lower preset, but it does work okay. And then we have the low preset here, which will not change a lot from medium, but it does get a little more stable as it changes the shadows and stuff. So again, in combat and stuff, it can help. And then this is the low custom that I've been using to play the game a good bit, just to squeeze the few extra performance out of it and change some of the low, keep the lows from getting so low on me. Now you can go to that 720 full screen and gain some performance as well if you really want to do that, but I just think the image quality isn't really worth it. You only gain a couple of FPS over what I'm typically playing at, and so I just kind of prefer leaving it at this 1080. But you can do whatever you want there, whatever's going to work for you, especially if you're someone who's trying to squeeze battery power out of the deck and get some longer gameplay. Alright, so back here into a little combat with the default 1080 low custom, and we're back into our 70s, 80s, and when we stand still here, the 90s. We'll switch this over to medium right here in the same area, the medium preset. We'll go down into the 80s, and we'll go in here and get into a little combat here. So instead of being in the higher 80s, most of the time we'll be like in the 70s a lot of the time, maybe dip to the 60s here, but for medium that's fine. It's just sometimes in other levels I notice it's not as stable, and I have seen it come under 60 here, like 58 there. So if you are trying to lock 60 medium, you might have to adjust a couple of settings to really hold it later on in the game and in other missions. Go into high if you want to do that. You can get away with it, especially if you're going to lock something like 30 to 40 FPS. You'd probably be all right, but it does dip quite a bit, and it's going to cause a little bit more issue with your frame times here and there when it does get busy in other missions and stuff like that, but you can mess with that as well. So hey, that's a pretty quick look, but I think you get a general idea of how Zenless Zone 0 is running here on the Steam Deck through Epic. And again, you can go check out that guide if you want for the desktop version, or I have the Epic guides here on the channel as well. Alright guys, as always, thanks a lot for coming to check out the video. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.